critical tests of your leadership. And before you like get off of this show because you don't think you're a leader, the definition of leadership is really broad. It's any place that you have influence. It's any people that you have influence with. If you are a volunteer, if you lead a small group, if you're in a small group, if you are a mom or a dad, if you work on a team, if you coach some team, anything like that is leadership. If you engage with someone like at work, like you've got a cubby mate or whatever, cubbies, not a cubby, a cubicle. If you have a cubicle mate, then you have influence. We all have some level of influence. And I do believe that these are tests that we all have to face. So I'm going to talk about these quickly tonight, and a couple more. So here it is, critical leadership. And I'm going to talk about 3 of these that are sort of like less known. They're not kind of your average answers, but they're sort of more specific. So the first one relates to the question that we have had. So you are writing questions that help you get to know people. The first crucial leadership test is your curiosity. I think your curiosity as a person. Are you curious about other people? Do you actually try to engage with other people with these kind of questions? Do you try to get to know people? Do you try to, sort of for me, like one of the best compliments I can ever get from a person is when they say to me, that's a good question. Because I think, oh wow, like I've helped them think differently about something. They're thinking deeply about something, either about themselves or a situation they're in. If leaders could want people to say to them, that's a good question, we will get so much further along with our influence because we are showing our humility, we're showing our interest, we are engaging meaningfully with people. So, crucial leadership test number 1, as a leader, are you curious? Do you cultivate and pursue good questions? Do you have just a question bank even that maybe you keep on your phone? Do you engage in relationships and conversations in a way where you want to listen really well to people and to hear their answers? Okay. Second crucial leadership test, if you're going to grow and influence, is your ability to manage energy. A great leader has to know how to spend time on the right things. I've been working through this book right here. A friend of mine recommended it, called Essentialism. And I'm not that far into it, but one of the questions in it that I love says, when you think about managing your energy as a leader, if you're a good leader, if you are a smart, capable person, your plate is going to be full really quickly. It's always going to be full. So the question that you want to ask yourself when you're engaging with 2 different situations is, which problem do I want to have? I love the way that that's phrased. Which problem do I want to have? Do I want to stay late at work and miss my child's basketball game? Which problem do I want to have? Do I want to have stuff left on my desk tomorrow morning when I come back to work? Or do I want to miss my kid's basketball game and deal with letting them down when I already told them that I would be there? I know nothing about this. Of course I do. I do this all the time. And I love asking that question. A great leader knows how to manage energy. They know how to spend time on the right things. In this book was a quote from C.S. Lewis, who says, people are running around with fire extinguishers in times of flood. Don't be a person who's running around with a fire extinguisher in times of flood. One of those places that we run around with a fire extinguisher is just answering email reactively, like our job is to sit there and answer whatever comes our way, rather than thinking about how's the best way that I can spend my time. This includes your small group, by the way. This includes your volunteer work. What's the most important thing that I can do with the time that I have right here is a really crucial test of leadership. And if you don't overcome that, you will get stuck. You'll hit a ceiling pretty quickly where you just become a reactive person who's kind of all the time stressed. And nobody likes to follow a stressed leader. It's really, it produces anxiety in other people. So energy management, curiosity, energy management. And then the last one, and I just wrote this way from my experience running teams as well as being a person who's managed, is can I be wrong about something and not be overly emotional about it? Can I be wrong? Can I be corrected about something without being overly emotional? Now, I put overly in the front because we have emotions. We're emotional people. And if your work is important to you, if the thing that you're doing is important to you, It's okay to be emotional when you get something wrong, but to be overly emotional is to take what could be a teaching moment and to make it a self-centered moment. It also makes the person who's trying to help you very uncomfortable, and they generally are probably not going to do it again. If you get defensive, if you get self-pitying, if you can't really just sort of receive what they're saying and make sure you understand it, then you're not being very coachable, and it would be worth trying to get better at that. And here's one of the ways that you can get better at that. And specifically, if you're a volunteer in any kind of work, if you volunteer as a basketball coach or a small group leader, like I said, or at your church somewhere, or in the PTA, nobody's going to give you feedback. If you're a volunteer, you're not getting feedback because they're just glad you're doing it. But that also means that if you're a passionate person who's trying to grow in leadership, nobody's going to help you get better. So you're going to have to prove this test by actually asking for people's feedback. And if you are particularly sensitive or you have a really hard time getting feedback, this is a great first step, because if you can ask for feedback, you can prepare yourself emotionally for what's coming your way instead of being surprised by it. So I find this, I used to be really, really sensitive and really hypercritical of myself. So it was very hard for me to ever get any feedback because I was trying to be perfect at all times, which nobody can do. So I was a crazy person. But one of the ways that I grew through that somewhat, it's still an issue, but not as much anymore, was by actually proactively asking for feedback. So I could get myself ready and say, hey, how do you think that meeting went? Is there anything that you think I could be doing differently? I would engage with the feedback, which then gave the freedom for people who worked on my team or my managers to give that free feedback freely, but I was also prepared to receive it. So it kind of created a positive cycle. And you'll find that once you get through it and once you do it a couple times, it gets a lot easier because we learn that people love humility. They love people who are coachable. And it's a key quality I look for in team members in my work at Hope is, are they coachable? Are they able to express if I bring up something differently? Can they engage with that well? Because that's the only way to grow, is to be able to receive that kind of feedback. So curiosity, energy management, which problem do I want? And finally, coachability. Am I able to be wrong and not overly emotional about it? And if you're a volunteer, you probably will have to seek out those answers.